สบายดีทุกคนมื้อนี้ข้อยจะมาแนะนำเรื่องวัฒนธรรมและเอกลักษณ์ของข้อยชื่อวุฒิพงษ์จุลิวงศ์หรือเจ้าเอิ้นข้อยสั้นๆว่าอเลนก็ได้ข้อยเว้าภาคแนะนำนี่เป็นภาษาลาวแนวข้อยอยากให้ทุกคนอยู่ในห้องนี้ฟังว่าภาษาของข้อยเป็นแนวใดแต่จากจุดนี้ไปข้อยจะเปลี่ยนเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเพราะมันจะง่ายกว่าสำหรับทุกคน So without further ado let's get started I was born and raised in Laos for the first 5 years of my life until me and my family decided to immigrate to the US, where I spent 5 to 6 years, eventually coming back to Laos by around middle school. I ended up graduating high school back home, and without much thought decided to come back here for college. And so the question that I get asked constantly by others, and myself included, is, am I more Lao or American? Well, the beauty of being raised in two entirely different continents is I get to pick and choose from experience what parts of the culture I like from both places. I can speak both languages fluently, though I prefer English. Sometimes I'm more American culturally and behaviorally. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm more Lao. Sometimes I'm not. Vice versa. The beauty in it all really is in the choices I have. Here are some of the things I enjoy from both places. One of the things I am into is learning languages. I don't know where this interest came from, but if I had to guess, it came from studying at an international school. I got to meet people from all around the world because of it, from Korea, Japan, Germany, the UK, Cameroon, and the list goes on. Another broad reason could be geographical and political reasons. So if some of you don't know, Laos is a landlocked country. The country shares borders with Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and southern China, where most of the Southeast Asian ancestry are from. With this geography also comes lots of history and cultural overlap. And speaking of cultural overlap, fun fact, Thailand and Cambodia were once part of Laos long ago, when the nation was called Lan Sang. By the late 18th century, the nations would split into 3 separate countries, and Laos would be colonized by France, all the way until 1954. With that history lesson out of the way, because of those reasons, it is quite common for a Lao person to be able to speak not just Laos, but also Thai, as the languages are basically the same. I didn't, because I didn't watch much TV, but I do understand the language enough to get around Thailand. The older generation who lived under French colonization were forced to learn French. My grandma, being an example, had to learn Lao, Thai, and French. Decades later, after they left Laos, French is not as common of a second language anymore, but the influences can still be seen elsewhere. While I am only fluent in 2 languages, I have dabbled in learning multiple languages throughout my short life. From 6th grade all the way until freshman year of high school, I learned Japanese. I got proficient in speaking until I stopped after my sophomore year. I then learned Korean out of curiosity, learned how to read the characters and can understand some phrases and words, but I didn't go too far with it afterwards. Now the current flavor of the month is French. I studied non-stop for a month and got to a 3rd grade reading level, and afterwards, life kinda happened and so it has been on and off since. There's definitely a pattern of learning, gaining some ability, and then losing it because I stopped, but this language hobby is something I would love to go back to eventually, given more time to learn and practice. Yeah, I know. I'm a Gen Z kid. Not really an iPad kid, but you get the point. I am a part of the generation that grew up with the internet, and boy did I sure live up to that statement, because I was constantly on the computer every single day. I would do everything. Go on YouTube and learn about stuff. Sometimes not. Play a bunch of online games. And then get mad at my awful teammates.
빨라지고 그 다음에 공격력 개수가 있어가지고 W가
Go on online chat forums to learn about stuff. Sometimes not. The list goes on. Kids growing up with the internet get such a bad rep from the older generation. It's like, oh, we're being too exposed too early on. And while it may be true in some cases,
I put diamonds in my mouth when I grin. You ain't gonna get back pussy, take it on a chin.
looking at you, TikTok, I don't really care about the discourse of it all, because I feel without the internet, I wouldn't have been able to learn so many things in such a short span of time. And with the internet allowed so many people to connect in different countries, and I got to meet lots of different people because of it. So without the internet, I would not be the kind of person I am today. This section is encapsulated as media that I enjoy and generally consume. It's gonna range from movies, TV shows, and music. I am generally not a big fan of mainstream movies too much these days. At one point, I really enjoyed the superhero movies and the stuff Disney put out. Then it got a bit too much, and a lot of them recently have been pretty bad. A lot of them seem to try to make some grandiose political statement that doesn't equate to much, as these companies don't really care or believe what they're even saying. They only make these statements to get more people into theater seats. I tend to watch a lot of foreign films and lower budget films. Foreign is a relative term, but for simplicity's sake, movies where they don't speak English. These movies generally have a lot of things that keep me pondering for days, weeks, or even months after I've watched them. I understand that some people do not want to have to think about the things they consume. Of course, there's a time and place for those types of media, but to constantly be consuming throwaway pieces of media is kind of a waste of time. Ask yourself this question: if a piece of media or art is forgotten just days after it was consumed, then is it really any good? Here are some movies that I've watched over the years that I've enjoyed. I do not watch TV shows as much as movies, as the amount of time investment required is much higher, but when a show is good enough, I will generally tune in all the way to the end. Here are some TV shows that I love. Music is kind of the same as movies. I can enjoy some pop tunes here and there, but most of my music tastes mainly gravitate towards hip-hop, electronic, house music, art pop, and recently I've been trying to get into rock and its many subgenres. Here are some tracks I've been listening to as of late.
But I'm so unphysical. I do feel like the lady. I do.
They came back around like I said they selling points. I got a bag now, but it's nothing to brag about. Blast in the background, I'm a black man with the blood.
Hey, what I need is a good defense, 'cause I'm feeling like a criminal.
Overall, the media I consume has greatly impacted me personally, and seeing how my tastes have evolved over time has been an enjoyable experience, because it shows that with time and more experience in life, my views and perspectives on the things I used to like are constantly changing and always questioned. I would rather be constantly morphing into something new and potentially better than someone who is constantly stuck in the past. And last but not least, gaming. My household was a gaming household. Every kid would be playing a game of their own, or we would be playing together. And then we would get into fights because all of us were sore losers. Growing up, we had every major console and played each and every one of them. And we played each and every genre, from shooters, party games, fighting games, MOBAs. Any game that was multiplayer and got everyone involved, we would play. Sadly, eventually we grew up and we stopped playing on consoles, but then got computers of our own just to do the same thing. I grew up, lost interest in regular video games, and only play competitive games as of late. But I love competitive games so much that whenever I can, I watch the competitive matches and will likely do so until they stop competing. It has kind of been ingrained in me since I was young, where I just cannot imagine myself not doing any of this anymore.
데프트의 우승으로 완성시킵니다.